Hey, this is Erin Lindstrom, and you're listening to Thank You for You. This is a show about celebrating and acknowledging our humanness as well as our beingness, the easy and the hard, the gifts and the gifts we don't really like but choose to accept anyway. This is a show about and for people in pursuit of more peace, more joy, more money, more justice, and more of the awe that life has to give us. Thank you for being here, and thank you for you. Welcome back. So I am, as always, very excited for this episode, but particularly because a couple weeks ago, today's guest did a guest expert session for one of my coaching programs, and it was incredible. The things that came out of her mouth, the energy about everything she was speaking of was just so good that I was like, great, come on the podcast. Let's talk about it more. Because I can't stop. I'm so into it. So her name is Dunn, and she has the best accent in the world. And before we hop into our actual conversation, I would like to tell you a little bit about her professional background and all of that jazz. So Dunn is a personal trainer and nutrition coach, serving women who have battled their weight for years to attain permanent weight loss and a more leaner, more defined physique away from the painful confines of diet culture and self-sabotage. That's really important. Away from the painful confines of diet culture and self-sabotage. The strategies she teaches are exactly the ones she uses daily to maintain a life free from binge and emotional eating, easily sustaining a year-round healthy physique and fantastic relationship with food and her body. Pairing her knowledge with nutritional science with female psychology, she coaches the fundamentals of nutrition science paired with simple behavior change in an unbiased, no-nonsense, jargon-free approach. It is Sifi's personal mission to steer as many women away from strict evangelical diets that normalize deprivation and pain to a life where food can once more just be a joy and not a weapon, to embrace positive change and self-betterment, and to live a life free from the diet doom is what Sifi is all about. So, Sifi, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I loved listening to my intro.
It's so good and it's so true. And I think really what strikes me just about your work is you're so clear about taking this away. Like there's a whole industry around diet, and you can do it differently than what most of the industry would tell you. And I just think it's so important. And I'm really excited to dive into all of this today.
I'm excited to share.
Yeah. So before we kind of get to that, as you may know, I start all of my podcasts with the same question to my guest, and you are welcome to take this in any direction, interpret it as you wish. But we would love to know, who are you and how did you get here? Beyond the bio.
Beyond the, I was like, well, you just nailed it. So, yeah.
Now tell us the real version.
Well, my name is Sifi, as you've said, and I just want to preface this with I'm turning 40 on Sunday. And I just feel like I'm dropping that everywhere. And it's just amazing to me because I didn't think I was going to make 40 when, back in my day, I started off as a binge eater and emotional eater. I was anorexic. I've had every kind of illness that you've got around eating. I had it growing up. And I just never thought that I was going to get to the point where I get to say, I'm going to be 40 because I legit thought I was going to die. Basically that's what it is that I do for a living. I work as a personal trainer and nutritionist. I'm very uncomfortable with the fact that I do coin myself as being a weight loss coach, but fundamentally I need to be able to reach people, right? And I think very often people look at their weight and being able to master their weight as being the answer to all their problems and their questions. So I kind of go in that way and then hopefully work my little area of brilliance around getting people back onto side of putting down food fear and stuff. So that's what I do. I live in England, just outside of London. I've got a schnauzer who is the love of my life, who you probably hear halfway through this. I've got a son who's 4.5, and I never thought I'd be able to have a baby because I messed myself up so badly. So all the things I wished for and envisioned and brought into my life irritate me so much, but I love them and I'm glad they're here.
I love the honesty. Okay, so I would love to hear if you're open to sharing a little bit about your story. So when we talk about like how you got here, you just shared that you've had your own ups and downs with eating disorders and your body and just all of that. And now you actually help people with that. So are you open to sharing a little bit more with us about like how does that happen?
Oh, sure. So I come from quite a traumatic background. When I say that, it's nothing like horrific. We're not talking about just a dysfunctional household that didn't feel safe.
Understood.
And yeah, it's as simple as that. I'm a child of alcoholics, and so it just didn't feel safe. And I also had my sister who lived with me, who I had a very, very distressing relationship with her. I loved her, and she probably was just a little bit abusive towards me in her own frustrations. And I always felt like I was kind of out, never really part of anything. So I wasn't really very safe at home. I felt like I could never get really people's attention very well. And I remember practicing trying to feel depressed and low in school in order to try and get attention. And like I always mention that because my past does come from what I call a traumatic background. However, my problems didn't start until I started dieting. And I think it's very normal that when we come into puberty, our bodies start changing as women. You know, we start thickening out, we're growing boobs, we're getting butts, and, you know, things are starting to feel heavier and fuller and stuff. And I was just desperately uncomfortable with that because I had nobody who was talking to me about things like that. I was also in an all-girls school where, of course, things like, you know, popular girls are all thin and stuff like that. So I think what I did is I've mushed everything all together of being like, well, I'm not acceptable and I'm not safe at home. And so therefore I need to change something and I'm going to start dieting. And I thought it was around like the age of 14 I started dieting, but it really wasn't. It was younger than that. It was from like the age of 12 that I felt so desperately uncomfortable in my own body, but I felt uncomfortable in my own house. I felt uncomfortable in my school. And so it's very, very commonplace that just, you know, what can girls or young people, should I say, be able to control? They can control their weight. They can control what goes in their mouth. And so that's basically what I started doing. I started dieting. And I remember just taking everything off the table. When I was growing up, bearing in mind, like I've already given you a prelude to how old I am. So when I was like my age growing up, it was very much pro-anorexic and anorexic sites. And it was like cool. It was like cool to be like having this eating disorder and being so thin and stuff. It's not very, very different now, but it's shifted somewhat now. So it was this aspiration to be thin. And it's again, that's going to be the answer to all my problems. That's going to make me feel accepted and loved and enough. I'll be enough when I'm thinner. So it's constantly chasing that. And I just sucked at dieting and I didn't know what I was doing, but most people do suck at dieting because when we diet, we start taking everything off the table. And I did it exactly as all teenagers do. Okay, no crisps, no chocolate, but also no rice, but also no chicken and fish or protein or anything like that, because that's not good for you. That can't be good for you. And so in the end, I was surviving off of, I remember it specifically, a bowl of rice a day, a hot Ribena that I could only have when I was watching American Gothic on TV at night. Yeah, so that's weird, isn't it? And also an apple. And occasionally, if like I was like faint from want of nourishment, I might have a tin of tomato soup or something like that. And then, of course, doing everything with it, like getting into the gym and running and stuff. So what happened is I was just trying to live this really restricted way of being. And of course, then it's starting to mess everything up. I'm now not getting my periods and stuff like that. Nobody's talking to me about growing up and changing as a woman. I also had really overdeveloped breasts, which I actually did have augmented and made smaller when I was eventually 19, but they could put me in for it when I was 16. So that's when it started being apparent to other people that, oh, hey, this girl's got kind of an eating disorder. So anyway, I just remember trying to live very much through these diet weight, these diets, and being able to do it for a certain amount of time and losing a lot of weight. And then of course getting the attention, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it long term. And then I was food obsessed. And I very remember the very first time when I made myself sick, I just found myself in the kitchen eating everything. I'd never heard of the term binging in my life, but lo and behold, I have consumed like our entire family's budget worth of food in like 10 minutes. And I made a decision. I'm going to go into the bathroom and I'm going to be sick. And then that kind of bred my whole introduction into bulimia. So I had a binge eating disorder, but I had a compensatory action afterwards, which is where I was making myself sick. So that would be termed as bulimia. And that's kind of where it really all started. So as much as I talk about perhaps us young girls, young boys, young people maybe start trying to diet, maybe come from a place of trauma, but really it's actually the problem was actually starting dieting. That, it was like how to process that trauma and looking at it in the wrong way.
So was the dieting almost like a coping mechanism?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think it was. I think it was not necessarily the coping mechanism. It was the solution. It wasn't actually. I retract what I said. It was the solution to my problems. Dieting was going to be the solution to my problems. Because I will be accepted if I'm thinner, if I'm better, if I'm prettier, if I'm anything like my sister. Do you know what I mean? Then things will be better. So no, it wasn't. It wasn't coping with anything. It was the solution. And realizing that I couldn't attain to the levels and the standards I put on myself for this solution.
I totally just relate to your story and growing up also in, an imperfect family, which I think most of all of our families kind of are, but with its own traumatic, events kind of happening and having similar struggles with, body and body shame and lack of real conversations about your body being sacred, let's say. There were some here's what's happening. Thank you for the education. But there wasn't the full embodiment of loving yourself. And I think then we move into all right, how do I be okay? How do I get to be accepted in this world? And when no one's telling you it's an inside job, we make it the outside job. And even our skin feels like the inside job. So changing that and making our bodies different. I think it's fascinating. And it's interesting now too. I have a daughter. And so watching her become aware of her body and taking in information from the outside world and then also the information that I'm giving her and just seeing how that's kind of coming to the surface with her and the things that she says, the choices that she wants to make. It's really, really interesting look inside of oh, wow, I know that our environment is safe/brave, where I'm giving you certain education and information and really from a loving space of loving yourself. And holy crap, the media and the industry, you're still coming in with all of these thoughts, even though but our house doesn't do that. You know what I mean? So it's just fascinating. And I feel very aware of all of this right now. And I feel like it's a super important conversation.
How old is your daughter?
7.
It's
She'll be 8 in a couple of weeks. Yep.
Yeah, my 4.5-year-old, my son, already came home the other day crying because somebody told him he had a fat belly. And it's just, you can't protect these kids from this. So it's so important that people speak more about
because they hear everything, right? And and they hear it on a level. I'll just share a quick snippet. My son the other day, he had a little boy in his class died. And I had to share that with him because he didn't get it, wasn't listening when the teacher told them. And so I shared it with him kind of at night. And he was I could see his mind working, but he wasn't crying or anything. And I was like, hey, it's okay. You can cry. You can be sad, mad, you can laugh, whatever you need to do is fine. And he was like, yeah, okay. And then he turned over to go to sleep. And then he turned back over and looked at me and he was like, why can't I cry? And I was like, what? And I was like, no, you can cry. And he was like, no, you can't cry when someone's mean or when you're upset or anything like that. And I was like, Jack, what are you talking about? yes, you can. And where did you hear this? Like, where did this come from? And he was like, Santa Claus, Santa Claus is coming to town. You better not shout. You better not cry. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And, in that moment, I luckily had my consciousness. I was there for it. You know what I mean? And I was like, wow, thank you so much for telling me this. You are so right. That song says that. That song is wrong. Like Santa is wrong. Like this is not a thing. You are allowed to cry about whatever you want. And he was like, oh. And that just made me think, like, how many tears have you held in? How many times have I seen you scream at me instead of just cry? Because you heard this thing in a song and you made it your truth. And I think, that's just one example of how we do that. But that's what we're doing as people all the fucking time, right? Like we hear these messages and we're like, oh yeah, I am only good if I'm skinny because I saw it on a commercial and all of the videos I watch and everything on Netflix has like small bodied people, right?
We soak it up. It's one of those things where somebody asked me the other day, like, my niece is starting to really seriously restrict her calories. She's 14. She's being really aware. She's starting to restrict her calories. And it's always something deeper. We got to look deeper at that because the thing is, when any women I know, when they start feeling like things are getting a bit out of control, they're starting to put on a bit of weight and stuff, what's the first fucking thing we do as women? We go, I must diet, I've got to lose weight and everything. So why would, if that's a fully grown adult woman thinking like this, because they're absorbing and soaking up all this kind of tripe that's being fed at us every which way but loose, how the hell's a 14-year-old girl going to be able to navigate any differently? Right. It's the same thing. So we have to be speaking more about this. So this is what I am done with the diet industry and why it sickens me that I call myself a weight loss coach, but it's just, I know I need to reach people because I need to make a difference because I can seriously change people's perception of food, perception of their body, their behaviors around their body, how they're, always, in a diet and chasing different diets and everything like that. I can change, I can stop that for them, but I need to be able to reach them. So I have to reach people on their language. And so this is the thing where it's just everything is wrong about like this outward appearance that we have. Like it's just all wrong. So it needs to be addressed. So this is why I'm like a little voice in the wind, like, hello.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so much of it, like really we have to do the work for ourselves so we then can pass that on to the other generations, right?
Absolutely.
So I'm wondering, so you just told us kind of like the beginning piece of your story. What was kind of the turning point for you?
Yeah, okay, this is very interesting. So my eating disorder came about in so many different facets over about a 15-year period. Other things I struggle with is alcoholism as well. So I still refrain from alcohol. I would go through periods of really truly giving up and being so depressed. I remember I actually missed an entire summer one year because I just couldn't even get out of bed, and I would only get out of bed to binge and then purge and then probably do the same thing again and then do the same thing again and the same thing again. Sometimes I would binge and purge for up to like 7 times a day until I physically passed out. So when I say that I had this all-consuming eating disorder, it was terrible. And then this might be a little too much, so trigger warning, but a little bit too much information for some people. But, I was quite an aggressive bulimic, and I actually entirely lost my gag reflex at one point. So I actually could no longer throw up. So then I just became this binge eater that was then just crippling in pain because I couldn't get rid of the food. So then I went from being very, 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 very thin to actually being really, really large. But you know what the sick thing is as well, is I was never clinically diagnosed as having an eating disorder because I didn't fall in the criteria for what my body looked like to class me as having an eating disorder. So 15 fucking years I suffered with this. 15 years.
I have chills like hearing that.
It makes me sick. I was sent to like some eating disordered help group, but again, that just breeds more sickness. It just breeds more sickness. I'm suddenly in this eating disorder group, and I forge a friendship with a girl who's trying to actively encourage me to start my bulimia again, so she could see what I look like so thin. And of course, what is that to a young girl? Oh my god, acceptance! Yay! Okay, I can perform for you. So it's just sick. It makes me so cross. So anyway, this is why I'm very passionate about what I do, because I had no bloody help, and I didn't start getting better until I became an adult. And what happened was I remember I was at the gym doing my like second cardio session of the day. I think I want to say 24 or 25, and I'm on the cross trainer, and an advert comes on for training to be a personal trainer, because actually at the time I was training to be an opera singer, because that was kind of my jam. That's what I was going to be. I was going to be an opera singer, and again, eating disorder galore in like thespian world. So, and I just remember thinking at the time, because I was exhausted, I was just like, I actually legit cannot do this anymore. Like, I actually think I would rather be dead. This has got to be more to life than this. Like, literally existing from binge to binge to purge to binge to purge to exercise to depression. This just sucks. So anyway, this commercial came on for like being a personal trainer, and I remember I got off the treadmill and I went downstairs and I saw the manager of the gym. I was like, "Hello, excuse me, can I speak to the manager?" sort of thing. And I was like, "Right, personal trainers, how much do you earn?" sort of thing. And he was like, "Oh, you can earn like 15 grand a year after that." And I was like, "I will be a personal trainer." So I decided that what I was going to do is I was going to focus on becoming a personal trainer, and that was going to fix my shit, right? Okay. So, and so that to me was my turning point in that gym, of that moment of like, right, okay, this has got to change now. This has got to change now. I cannot carry on living this way. But I was on my own because I'm now an adult. I'm not a child. I didn't get any help as a child. I didn't get any help through my teenage years because I didn't qualify, because I wasn't sick enough, apparently, because I didn't look sick enough. And, my parents didn't know what the hell to do with me. My mum was just full of shame about the fact that, like there I was being this bulimic sort of, person with eating disorders and blah. So anyway, that's when I decided that's when something starts to change. And then I struggled on for another 8 years. So they were not quite like that. But it was an amazing point of change, because that's really where my development into personal betterment started, was just understanding this actually can't go on. This can't go on. So I ended up studying to become a personal trainer. And this was back in the day where it was actually hard to become a personal trainer. Like, you actually had to take exams and study for like a year, and you actually would fail exams. Nowadays, you can be a personal trainer, like doing an online course for like 3 minutes and, whatever, sort of thing. So like, it's very, very different now. So that was very much the very start of learning how to physically look after myself. And even as a personal trainer, the nutritional element of a personal training qualification, even back in the day when it was really, really good and I was with a really great credible course, 3 days long. 3 days long. No, nothing around behavior and stuff. So I could go off on one. So I think I'll let you ask another question. Otherwise, I could go on my whole history spread of like trying to fix myself.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm interested. So it sounds like you kind of had this realization of like this, there has to be more to life. Like this is shitty. Right. And like then redirecting yourself. I love that moment of kind of like clarity on the treadmill, and how you took action exactly like in that moment of like, hi, how much do you make? What is this? Like, I'll take this, please. Yeah. So then you embark on this journey of becoming a personal trainer. Then like I do want to know more about like the next step, like what happens next? How do we end up with like what you have now? To me is like a very embodied full philosophy that is about body and food, but it really is about living your life. And so please carry on.
I will do. Okay. So I qualified as a personal trainer, and at the time, of course, I was meeting other people and other like, it's very interesting because I always have a bit of a joke in my head, because whenever you come across like life coaches and stuff, it's usually they've been some kind of personal trainer in the background. They embark upon like fitness and they move on, because they also are recognizing, okay, fixing the body and focusing on just the physical self is just not the answer here, because we can get ourselves to look fucking fantastic and everything like that, and actually still I am so dissatisfied, I am still so unhappy. And at the point for me, I was like, when I say I was serious about change, it was like, it is better or death. So just to really really put like into perspective how serious I was about making change. Like I will be dead or I will get better, either or, sort of thing. And I also didn't really want to die. So I then became a personal trainer, started really understanding about physical exercise and the difference that we can make to our body, and about lifting weights and stuff like this. Is very new to me because a lot of people nowadays go into personal training when they've kind of got this history of lifting and stuff. I'd never lifted a weight in my life. I hadn't known of it. I was terrified to lift weights because, of course, you know, it had to be just cardio. So ended up just exploring different courses along the way. And it was very interesting because all the courses I chased were food avoiding, like nothing to do with food. It was just, okay, right, how do you physically optimize yourself? How do you physically make yourself better? So I would take on lots of different qualifications and learning about how anatomy worked and stuff. And then I had my then best friend was actually my mentor and my life coach. And she started introducing me to the world of like, intuition and, you know, chasing your intuition. And actually these not just being a physical thing. So I started going to talks about like, you know, life alignment and hypnotherapy and like angel readings and stuff. And so I very much then started to reject the whole idea of like physical action, like physical tangible action you can take going straight into the world of the spiritual. But the thing is, and actually, lo and behold, like my business was taking off. Like I was starting to pick up clients as a personal trainer, but I would really struggle with feeling very inauthentic because, you know, I was telling people all the things to do in the whole 1 hour that I had with them each week. And, you know, behind the scenes, I was still sick as a dog and I just couldn't work it out. I couldn't work it out. I was doing everything right. I was having, you know, I was seeking myself out spiritually. I was starting to learn more about lifting and stuff like that, but I was still so sick. I was still bulimic every single night. So I would say my real true healing properly start with like owning my space and not necessarily just wanting to be smaller all the time was I met my husband and we were talking about weightlifting, and I actually got a little bit jealous because he was quite into like lifting and bodybuilding. He had a friend who was into it and stuff, and he started introducing me to it. And then I had just lost all my confidence in the gym because I just felt so out of integrity with myself. There I am coaching my clients and I feel like a liar, you know, and I was lying. So of course I felt this way. So my husband was like, right, we're going to try and get you to fall in love with the gym and get your confidence back. So we booked me with, and he's like, I know the person you need to go to. You need to go see a guy called Bulldog. Who's like this Navy SEAL, British iron brick shithouse of a man. And next thing I know, I'm in his garage and he's teaching me how to lift weights properly. Not like Jane Fonda, like lifting weights, but like properly lifting iron. And he just kept on like going, right, well, there's a bar and he's going to teach me how to pick it up. And then he was like waiting. And he was like, dude, actually, you're quite strong. And each week I would go back and I was just getting stronger and stronger. And actually my love for actually starting to feel like I was being stronger took over. Like I couldn't get stronger and be bulimic at the same time. So it was replacing this habit that I had of binge eating with a new habit of actually showing up for myself and wanting to get stronger. So that was quite interesting to me that I was like, oh, okay, the more of this habit I'm developing, the less of that habit I'm doing. And I started falling in love with it. And then he started to encourage me to start competing. And, you know, like he put me into like this little competition and I won it. And I was like, oh my God, thing like that. So it was just amazing. But still I would just always revert back to binge eating no matter what. And it was because I had all these beliefs around food, because I started cleaning up my diet. Like, you know, I'm saying in quotation marks, I'm cleaning up my diet. So I was starting to listen to, my then life coach best friend who was like, you need to do paleo eating, you need to do poliquin eating. And it was great because it got me eating, but it also got me eating with a whole load of beliefs around food. And it would get to the point where I couldn't even have hummus without having an anxiety attack. Now, when you're starting to sweat having a teaspoon of hummus, you've got still problems, right? Sort of thing. So I just had another pivotal moment where after yet another binge, there's got to be more to this. And this is years later. We're now talking probably 5 years on from my first moment of just being like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm scared to eat everything. Everything is a trigger food. I can't even eat hummus. I can't have a cookie. I can't do anything because everything elicits this binge. So I was like, I didn't know what to do. Something had to give. So I invested. I was like, there's got to be a science to this. There has to be a reason. I don't understand why some people are thin and some people are fat. And why am I one and the other? So I literally signed up to do nutrition classes. And that's when, like, starting to learn the science of food and what was going on with food, I was just like, oh, that's cool. Sort of thing like that. So, there is a thing, like an actual calorie. And you mean I have a metabolism? Sorry, I'm going on.
No, it's good. So it's like you found the actual information, which makes the messaging, like, you start to understand what advertising is when you understand how business works. And I feel like that's what you're saying too. Like, once you understand nutrition, then you can kind of pull apart food.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And I was just like, oh my God. But it was amazing because I was in so many different kind of containers for like spiritual wellness and health. And, by this point I had trained in NLP, I had trained in all sorts of stuff. So I had these skill sets, but then none of them made sense because I couldn't still the waters enough to actually get past this whole habit that I had of binge eating all around this fear. So actually learning nutrition science actually stilled those waters. So then I could start actually getting to the nuts and bolts of what was the problem.
Got it. So it really sounds like it was a combination of like the spirituality, the food, and the movement for you.
Absolutely. All of those, which of course are the three very big pillars of what it is that I coach. And it's one of those things where I really thought, like, in order to be able to ditch my binge eating disorder, I would have to really let go of the want to be slim and physically strong. And I think you get that a lot of the time where people start learning, we have to really let go of this want and desire to look a certain way. Well, I wasn't willing to do that because I am very into, I've spoken to you about this before, but very into body autonomy and body freedom. And I get to do whatever the hell I want with my body. And if I don't feel comfortable being fat, used as a descriptive word, I have no emotion around using the words fat, thin, obese, whatever. Like, they're just descriptive words, just like saying brown hair, blonde hair. But I didn't want to look that way. I didn't want to be, because that was one part of it that really I shied away from truly getting better, because I started thinking getting better meant having to be comfortable with being fat. And I didn't want that. And I was never going to get better doing that because inherently I didn't want to be fat. I wanted to be slim and fit and healthy. And I wanted to be this power lifter. And I wanted to be inspirational to people because I was always very aware of the fact, because there's some part of me that's quite shallow, which is, people see the shiny object at the end, don't they? They don't see the hard work that goes in it. So, for example, they don't see, like, if somebody's got a business, they don't see all the hard work and the graft and the learning, the lessons and the failures and stuff like that. They don't learn that. They just see the shiny product at the end. So I knew that I still wanted to be a representation of my shiny product, sort of thing. So that's really kind of learning the nutrition science slowed down things and again getting to the point of being so truly fed up with how everything was that I was able to then start trusting in the process a little bit and trusting in the science and another massive thing that came to me, because again I was going down all these deep things of like, my sister was really abusive to me, and I'm a child of alcoholic parents, and I don't feel like I was really loved and accepted by my mum, and all these things. So I kept on thinking that the stuff that fueled this eating disorder was so much bigger than what it was, because I kept on realizing, I had so much therapy. Like, I know the reason why I started binging. I understand that I didn't feel accepted by my sister, and I felt rejected, and I felt abandoned. I understand all this, but I can't stop this fucking issue. I can't stop binging, sort of thing. And then it wasn't until, and I think it was a former client of mine who I had the audacity to be coaching at the time, who said, you know what you've got? You got a damn habit. And I was just like my jaw dropped. And firstly, I was like, fuck you. And then, thank you. Like, you're totally right. Because I just realized that I was just totally addicted to this habitual lifestyle. And it was like, what the hell am I going to do when I'm not binging and purging all the time? What the hell am I going to do with my life? I'm going to actually have to deal with some shit. Like, and it was just a habit.
Oh, I'm going to have to deal with everything else, like those feelings and the unresolved everything.
Yeah.
Oh, it was a distraction in a way.
Yeah, I think so. I do. But also,
yeah,
I want to also strip back to it was even less complicated than that, because I was doing all that work. I was dealing with the feelings and the emotions, and I was processing them and moving on from them, but there's still the same damn habit was there. So and then it wasn't until somebody broke it down and said to me, by the way, what you're doing is a habit. This is ingrained. This is like smoking or drinking or whatever. This is an addiction. I was just like, that's nuts, man. That's so cool. Sort of thing.
Amazing.
Because it was amazing, because it made it less of a problem. Like, oh, this is just a habit. Okay, cool.
It's not who you are.
No, it's not who I am.
It's something you do. It's not who you are. So the identity piece was like back to you.
Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
And so I really worked out how to break that habit. Again, something I did on my own.
Wow. So that's a pretty incredible like journey, and has many layers and levels and certifications and time and learning. You know what I mean? Really, like it's your life's work. So you've done this work, you've changed it for yourself. One thing I know about the way you work with your clients, though, is that you work with them for a very, in my opinion, short amount of time. So how does that work? How are you able, and your clients have amazing results, right?
They do. Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit, and how have you managed to package like a lifetime of work into a shorter container that gets the result that I imagine you wish you had way back then?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that's what I wanted. I was just thinking to myself, because I fell into what I do quite accidentally. I mean, I very purposely wanted to be a personal trainer. Right. Very purposely wanted to be a personal trainer, but I didn't know anything about wanting to be a nutritionist or a businesswoman or anything. I had no idea. So I just really sat down and just thought to myself, what were the key things that helped fix me? Now, I always joke about the fact that I'm competitive when it comes to my eating disorder, because it's very rare that I actually come across anybody who was quite to the same degree or the same severity of being addicted to this habit that I had. So I always think, well, what did I need? What did I need to know? And it's one of those things where I was like, I needed to know that actually I needed to know the truth about what food was and how the human body worked. So I was like, right, okay, we're going to start with that. I'm going to start teaching people about nutrition, because that was a big thing for me. And then the other thing was, okay, what do I know that my clients are doing all the time that isn't working? They're doing very addicting, very painful exercise sessions, huge calorie burns, lots of cardio and stuff like that. And actually are getting addicted to like kind of exhaustive exercise. And of course they love booking a personal trainer. People love going, oh, I saw my personal trainer today. She beasted me. It was amazing. Oh my God. Whereas that's just bad personal training, in my opinion. And so I was like, oh, okay. So, okay. People are recognizing the fact that actually there's this massive association with this has to be painful. This has to be painful. And I was the reason why I got into the nutrition element of it was because everybody I was speaking to was either coming to me as a personal trainer. They were coming to me having followed or being and doing some kind of diet. And it was always something that was just mental. And I've done half the bloody diets myself, sort of thing. But they are addicted to this kind of this quick result that these diets produce. They're not long lasting. I mean, they fail every single time. Like without fail, they'll fail every single time. The one thing you can bet on is death, taxes, and diets, right? Sort of thing. So I was like, so I segue back into like, I was like, right, okay, we need to get these women to calm down in the gym. Okay, we need to let's scale it back and calm it down. And actually, a lot of the time people were coming to me and they're, oh, my knee hurts, my back hurts, my hip is sore, everything's sore and like that. And I was like, it's just because anatomically you're not moving correctly for your body. So I had done so much training in like how to actually anatomically get people to move properly and with less pain. And so I was actually teaching people to start lifting weights. And then I started introducing the whole idea of like, okay, so you're doing this diet, but let me explain to you why this is not happening, and starting to teach people a little bit of that, the science side of things. And then I was noticing that because these women were doing these kind of extreme detox type diets and juicing diet, Jason Vale diets and Slimmer's World and, you know, Sin Foods and all this stuff, I was like, oh man, so what you're doing is you're like dieting for like a long time and then you're telling me you're binging? Tell me more. sort of thing. And then I was just piecing it together that actually these women were doing a lesser version of what I would been doing to myself for years.
Oh, that's like uncomfortable for me to hear.
Sorry, but
No, it's so good. It's so needed. You're right. We do it on a very low level.
Low level. And then hearing about how people are I worked with people in a gym environment 15 years in front of mirrors. You think that you could give a woman a compliment? They were tearing things, holding magnifying glasses up to everything they didn't like about each other. So I just started piecing things together bit by bit. And then, and I was still a personal trainer and I was very, very stuck. This is why actually we came to know each other, Erin, because I just knew that I had sussed something pretty fucking big. And I was starting to make real changes the second I stopped personal training my clients because I was just like, I have to split up my business because I am getting frustrated because people are coming to me, booking me as a personal trainer, and they're so busy. They want to fit everything in and they want to have all their exercise and diet stuff done. And they want to be personal training, they want to be beasted. And it's just like, I'm still perpetuating this desperation, this need. So I was just
it's
like,
more than just the fitness.
Yeah. And I was just like, no, this has got to stop. So I decided then back in like when my son was born, over the past couple of years, I have been working really hard and it's been a growing process as I'm going of forging out this container that I can put people in that actually looks at breaking the cycle of perpetual dieting. 9 times out of 10, if I am working with a lady, she is coming from a place of having dieted, just done so many different diets, not being able to sustain them, feeling like a failure, having that breed into more like mental issues and then more of the same continuously. And I decided like, I'm going to split my business in half, right? I'm going to deal with people who need the mindset coaching and the food, and they're going to deal with the exercise on the side. And then I was just getting so frustrated with the personal training because it doesn't help anything. It's not helping anything.
Unless you do the work underneath.
You do the work underneath. And actually, you know what? I really recognized that if I had just known that what I was doing, irrespective of the trauma that I came from, if I knew what I was doing was a habit, if I knew that I was being victim to diet mentality, if I knew that I was victim to being a woman that just knew that I needed to have everything be painful in order to change, if I knew that I was victim to the fact that actually exercise sessions had to be really, really hard and punishing and awful, if I had just realized actually, oh, hey, you know what? There is a science to how food actually works. Oh, and by the way, you know your body, yeah? You're not a unique little snowflake. Actually, it all kind of works similar across the board upon everybody. This is how things work. So I was like putting this element together and then putting the exercise element together and then recognizing the fact that, okay, people were having this incessant need to be very quickly where they were, perpetually dieting. And so I was like, okay, well, I can change that easily. We just need to stop. We just need to take the diet out of things. Sort of thing. And so I've just figuring this out. And then really it was in then 2019 that I fully launched as my new business and starting to take on clients. And I would say that for the first 10 years of my personal training life, very, very little transformations, very, very little transformations, not helping. And that makes me really sad to think that I so desperately wanted to help, but didn't.
Well, I think there's a difference between results and transformation too.
Yes.
And so I bet that you were getting them results, but there wasn't transformation.
Yes, absolutely. Bang on the money. Because yes, I did serve a purpose with things. And if I did anything, people knew how to exercise better and stuff. And also I always made it very, very clear of the fact that actually, hey, did you know I kind of got this side business as like a nutritionist, man, I can really help you kind of thing. But I didn't really feel confident, because how do you transition from this is how long clients can be stuck for. Yeah. I worked with people for years, not making a difference. Right. And then it's so funny that everybody who started transforming over into my nutrition coaching package and like my exercise, my online stuff, where I actually could sit and remove myself from the environment of like, right, I have to beast you, because that's my job. I have to beast you. So you feel like you've got your money's worth. I was just started being like, do you know what? I'm sick of it, because this is me just playing part to the diet industry, and I'm done with it. I want to take the diet industry down.
So how long would you say for most of your clients, like working with you, like how long does it take to actually like step out of what they've been doing and to step into like, it's, to me, it almost doesn't feel like a different lifestyle. It's like to step back into your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean? How long does that take?
My original container working with people is 3 months long, 12 weeks. And that is all I need to really start facilitating some fucking pretty epic change.
That's wild.
It is wild to me. But I'm very aware of the fact that people are driven by desperately wanting to get better. And I just can't mesh with the whole, like, because I did therapy for years, and this is going to take years, and we have to process so much and stuff like that. I don't think I'm the full journey. I think I'm like one part of the start of the journey, and really stilling the waters so they can go on to do more work. So 3 months is my original container, but then I have a continuation container, and I would say most people stay with me for like 9 months to a year.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. And I will also say that the majority of my clients will stay on that long. The ones that don't, I can liken this to business coaching. I've had business coaching where I've worked with a business coach. I've worked for 4 months. It's been brilliant when I'm working with them. As soon as I'm on my own, like, oh shit. Yeah.
It's interesting, the amount of time. And I think it does vary person to person. And sometimes people find other people and all of that stuff. But like, it's about being devoted to yourself and like being with yourself. And if being in container with someone else leading you for a while, like there's nothing wrong with that. There's no shame in that. Like it's actually a beautiful gift to give yourself, the gift of being supported.
Yep. 100%. Because trying to do it on your own is awful. And also it's one of those things where they always say like it's 21 days to change a habit. I don't think that's true. But I mean like, it's 21 days. So I just figured like, right. Okay. So if you give me 3 months of your time, that is, if you give me 3 months of your time, that's a tiny little segment. Tiny little segment in this whole lifetime, right? But I'm only asking my client to give me 3 fucking months to really start making some absolute changes. But we can't, it's a lot to unpack, because a lot of stuff will come up in coaching. And I do not make the promise that my client is going to come out of their container with me being ultimately at the body they want, with the habits they want, knowing everything about cooking. No, not at all. But in order to teach you the fundamentals, to actually get the logistics down, I need 3 months. But then the rest of it, that's just the beginning, man. Because now we can get to your life. Because now we can get to your life, and we can start working on stuff, and we can do it without it being distracted and painful. And actually, food is like the number one thing that keeps people so busy in their head. Food focus. I mean, I train women who are amazing. I train people who are SEOs, run their own business. I train people who are, massive in these huge corporations and they're terrified of potatoes and they can't think of things and they go, do you know what I mean? And they go to functions, they can't concentrate on the fact they miss so much. They miss their kids' lives. They miss everything.
Right.
They miss everything because of this food focus. And I can start breaking that within 3 months. Absolutely. 100%.
So for people who may be listening who are, it's interesting because the language around this is important to me, but who are just pulled in by this conversation and maybe becoming aware of, I think there's different phases of awareness of like, oh, maybe I do that. Some of us have stories about, I used to do that. And maybe there are like tinges of that shadow almost in the like current life, whatever it is. What, at the end of the day, like if there's one thing that you want people to know, what is it?
If any portion of your life is being taken up too much by food, or any behavior you have around food, no matter how big or small, then understand that that's fixable. Simple as that. Simple as that. Because I don't want to paint the picture that in order to work with me, you have to be ultimately fucked when it comes to your food and your habits and stuff. I don't. I work with some people who've just done Weight Watchers too many and stuff. But my thing is if you are not enjoying how you are showing up and eating, if you are in any way feeling any kind of guilt or shame around anything you eat, then that is a problem. And I also have people who can come to me and people who can be on the fence with working with me, and they're like, oh no, I'm fine if I just don't eat this food. If I don't eat chocolate, if I don't have this, then it's fine. I'm healed, but I just can't touch these trigger foods. If you have the language of you have a food that's triggering to you, then you are not healed. And I can help you get past that. So my thing is, we have normalized having some form of hang up about our body and food, and that's not normal. We need to make that not normal anymore. We need to be able to go on holiday with our kids. We need to be able to lick our kids' ice cream cones without having to do any compensatory stuff or feeling bad about it. And we don't need to be thinking about our next diet or what diet we should be doing or comparing ourselves to whatever people are doing when it comes to dieting and making ourselves smaller. As women, we need to stop making ourselves smaller women. We need to stop doing that. So...
it's so interesting too, because even there's a part of my mind that's like, yes. And I can also see how like stepping into work with you in a way can be seen or like categorized in the mind as like, oh, I'm doing something about this. Almost as if it is another diet, another like, I'll do this and then right? And what I feel like you're saying is that the work of working with you is really like undoing all of that programming. Like releasing it once and for all, being like, okay, we're going to take this off the list of something that I'm always freaking working on. And instead just like recalibrating what is normal, how I am and why.
Absolutely. And it's and that's why I'm so impassioned by what I do, because I tell you what, when you start ditching all that food focus, I tell you what, I managed to make a pretty successful business, and I've managed to have a baby, and I've managed to learn how to edit videos and stuff like that. I managed to do some really cool stuff since I haven't had an eating disorder anymore. It's amazing. That's the thing. I've actually made friends. So yeah.
I love that. Okay. So if people want to learn more about you or potentially work with you, where should they go? What should they do? Where can we hang out?
Oh, okay. So I have a website that you can go to, which is naturalborncavewoman.com. And also my place where I hang out mostly is Instagram, and I tend to hang out in Instagram stories, and I coach every single day there about something when it comes to nutrition. I've got a small account, but it's a genuine account where I actually have a relationship with these women who follow me and stuff. So that's a good place to get to know me. Also, I have got an ebook that I'm just doing, and it will be ready in time that this comes out. And it's just a really silly little lovely thing where it's just some foods and some exercise stuff and just how you can get to know me and stuff like that. So those are all the places where I go.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story with us and your knowledge and wisdom, and just genuinely thank you for you.
Thank you.
And thank you for you, beautiful listener. Sincerely, thank you so much for tuning in and listening for this episode. I digitally live over at erinlindstrom.com, and I spend a lot of time on Instagram where I am at Erin Lindstrom. So feel free to come on over to my page, send me a DM. I would love to hear what struck you from this conversation. I hope it was helpful. Let me know your takeaways. I always appreciate your shares so we can help get the word out about the show. There is a link in my Instagram bio where there's access to a ton of cool, some of it free stuff, including my sales and money mindset course, which was $497, and I am currently offering for free. So feel free to go get that. We can do some of the inner work together. Hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.